I never thought I'd be one of those people who found out their boyfriend was cheating through a random Instagram tag, but that's exactly how my story started. My name's Haley, and I was dating Matt for almost 3 years. We met in college, dated long distance for a while, and then moved in together once we both started working full-time. He was charming, confident, and ambitious, the kind of guy everyone thought was perfect boyfriend material. We shared everything: an apartment, a dog named Milo, a Netflix account, plans for the future. We'd even talked about moving to Seattle for his new job and maybe getting engaged once we settled in. It all felt so real, so stable, so safe. Until that night, I was scrolling on my phone after work, half watching some random show, when I saw a notification pop up. At Chloe_Rose tagged at Matt_Jordan in her story. At first, I didn't think much of it. Matt was sociable, had tons of gym friends and work buddies. But then curiosity got the better of me. I opened the story and there it was. A cozy restaurant table, to plates of pasta, to wine glasses reflecting soft candlelight, and a man's tattooed arm resting casually near a woman's hand. The arm was unmistakable. It was Matt's. I stared at it, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. I clicked her profile. It was public. Her pictures were everywhere: selfies, gym photos, mirror shots, travel pics. And then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. She'd posted a picture in a familiar living room, our living room. The same couch, the same wall art, the same stupid throw pillow I'd bought last Christmas. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. Then I saw another photo. Her wearing a t-shirt that said Matt's Gym, the same one I had custom-made for him on his birthday. I remember sitting there, frozen, my phone shaking in my hands. It felt like my entire body was on fire and freezing at the same time. My mind started racing with explanations. Maybe she was a friend, maybe it was old, maybe I was overreacting. But the timestamp said otherwise. 2 days ago. I wanted to confront him right then, but I didn't. I wanted proof. I needed to be sure. So I waited. I played it cool. When Matt came home that night, everything about him looked the same: his calm smile, his cologne, the way he kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. But I could see it in his eyes now, the flicker of distance, the faint guilt. My instincts screamed that he was lying to my face. Over the next week, I turned into someone I barely recognized. I checked his location, memorized his schedule, and when he left his phone unattended, I looked. What I found shattered me. Messages between him and Chloe, dozens of them. Last night was amazing. I can't wait to see you again. You're the only one who gets me. He called her baby. She sent him selfies with hearts. They talked about plans, about next weekend, about how it feels so real. Every word felt like a stab wound. But strangely enough, I didn't hate her. Not yet. The more I scrolled through her profile, the more I realized she might not even know I existed. Matt didn't post me on social media, said he wasn't into that. He'd erased me from his digital life. Maybe she really thought he was single. That thought made me pause. I started watching her stories like a hawk. She seemed nice, normal, funny, even a little awkward. She talked about her work, her dog, her friends. She didn't come off as manipulative or malicious. It was bizarre, but I started feeling more sorry for her than angry. One Friday night, Matt told me he was going out with the guys. Around 10 p.m., I saw Chloe post a story at a bar, Tucker's, the exact same place Matt said he was. The caption read, "Date night with my favorite person." My blood went cold. That was it. I created a burner account and followed her. She followed me back instantly. I waited a few hours, then sent her a message. "Hey, were you at Tucker's last night? I swear I saw you there." She replied a few minutes later, "Yeah, I was with this guy I'm seeing. Matt, do you know him?" My stomach dropped. I typed, erased, retyped. Finally, I wrote, "Maybe. Tall, dark hair, sleeve tattoo?" She sent back, "Yes, you know him?" I stared at her message for a long time before replying, "Yeah, I know him." And then I told her everything. The silence after that was the longest 5 minutes of my life. I expected anger, denial, insults, but instead, she just wrote, "Oh my God." I had no idea. That was the moment everything shifted. Instead of enemies, we became allies. We talked for hours that night, comparing stories, screenshots, dates. It all lined up perfectly. He had been juggling both of us for nearly 5 months. He told her he lived alone. He told me he was working late. He spent nights at her apartment pretending to be with clients. It was disgusting. Chloe cried. I cried. We were both humiliated, but neither of us wanted to give him the satisfaction of breaking us down. That night, something inside me changed. I wasn't going to fight another woman over a man who didn't deserve either of us. I was done being the calm, forgiving girlfriend. The next morning, while Matt was at the gym, Chloe and I came up with a plan. Not revenge, at least not the kind he'd expect. We decided to let him expose himself, to let his own lies destroy him. But we also agreed on one thing: we'd meet in person. And that meeting was when everything started to unravel in ways I couldn't have imagined. When I agreed to meet Chloe in person, I didn't know what to expect. I imagined some awkward tension, maybe even a fight if emotions got too high. But when I walked into that coffee shop and saw her sitting by the window, everything inside me shifted. She looked nervous, her hands shaking slightly as she held her cup. But when our eyes met, she smiled softly, like she was just as lost as I was. And suddenly, I wasn't angry. I was relieved. We talked for hours about how we met him, what he told us, the little lies that suddenly made sense now that we compared timelines. He told her he was single, just not into labels. He told me he was working late those same nights. He'd even taken her to the same restaurant where we celebrated our anniversary. The sheer audacity made us laugh. That bitter kind of laugh you only get when you've been deeply hurt but can't cry anymore. I told her everything: how we'd been living together, how we had a dog, how his toothbrush was still next to mine. She looked horrified, almost nauseous. I swear, she said, if I'd known about you, I never would have touched him. And I believed her. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. We decided to keep talking, not just about Matt, but about how we both got sucked into his charm. He made us feel special, like we were the only ones who truly understood him. But that's the thing about manipulators: they're masters at building fantasy worlds where they're the hero, and you're lucky just to be part of their story. A week passed before we made our next move. Matt was acting perfectly normal at home, cracking jokes, planning a weekend trip, completely unaware that Chloe and I were texting behind his back. Every time he'd go to the bathroom, I'd get a message from her. He just texted me. Sometimes the timestamps were seconds apart from when he was talking to me. I can't explain the twisted satisfaction that gave me. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck. But I finally had the map. Chloe suggested something wild. We should confront him together. Not over text, not through drama online, in person. The idea scared me, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. He had lied to both of us face to face, so we'd face him together. We planned it carefully. I told Matt I had to work late that Friday, and Chloe told him she wanted to cook dinner at her apartment for him. When he showed up, she'd invite him in, make him comfortable, and then I'd show up about 15 minutes later. That night felt endless. I got ready, my hands trembling, rehearsing what I'd say. Would I scream? Would I cry? Would I just stand there in silence? I didn't know, but I needed closure. I arrived at Chloe's apartment right on time. She had left the door unlocked, just as planned. I heard voices inside: his low laugh, her polite responses. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it through the wall. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped inside. The look on his face when he saw me will stay with me forever. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. For a second, he genuinely looked confused, like his brain couldn't compute what was happening. "Haley," he said, his voice cracking. Then he looked at Chloe, and realization hit him like a train. What the hell is this? I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "You should probably sit down." What followed was chaos. He tried to deny everything at first, said I was being dramatic, said Chloe was lying, said it was all misunderstandings. But we had receipts, screenshots, dates, photos, everything. We laid them out like evidence in a courtroom. His expression shifted from anger to panic to silence. Finally, he said the one thing that made both of us laugh out loud: "You're both overreacting." That line broke something in me. For so long, I had been trying to keep the peace, to avoid being the crazy girlfriend. But in that moment, I realized I didn't care how I looked. I told him everything I'd been holding in the late nights, the lies, the manipulation, the way he made me doubt my own sanity. Chloe added her part about how he told her he loved her, how he made her believe they had a future. It was like unloading poison that had been sitting in our chests for months. When we were done, we didn't wait for his apology. There was nothing left to say. Chloe told him to get out, and I walked out first, leaving him sitting there, speechless. We didn't talk for days after that. I thought that would be the end, just a sad, shared chapter between two women who got hurt by the same man. But it wasn't, because something unexpected happened. We didn't drift apart. We grew closer. We started texting, checking in, even hanging out. It was weird at first, this friendship born out of betrayal, but it felt real, pure, no games, no pretending, just honesty. We'd go for coffee, talk about everything but Matt, laugh about the absurdity of it all. People might have found it strange, but to me, it was healing. Yet beneath it all, something still felt unfinished. Because Matt wasn't done. He started texting me again a few weeks later, first with apologies, then with excuses, then with desperation. And when I told Chloe, she said he'd started doing the same to her. At first, we ignored him. But then things took a darker turn. He began showing up, outside my work, outside her gym. At night, my phone would buzz with unknown numbers saying things like, "You made a mistake," or "We need to talk." That's when I realized the story wasn't over yet. We'd exposed him, humiliated him, but people like Matt, they don't take being powerless lightly. And I was about to learn that the hard way. At first, I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe the car parked across the street from my building for 3 nights in a row was just coincidence. Maybe the footsteps I heard behind me leaving work were just part of city noise. But then Chloe called me one night, her voice shaking, saying she'd seen Matt standing outside her gym, watching her through the glass, not even hiding it. That's when I knew it wasn't in my head. He wasn't letting go. After the confrontation, we both blocked him everywhere: social media, phone, email. But he found ways. Fake accounts started following us. New numbers texted things only he would know. "Hope Milo's still doing okay. I miss our spot at Tucker's." The messages were never overtly threatening, but they were invasive, manipulative, designed to make us doubt ourselves. Chloe wanted to go to the police, but without something directly threatening, there wasn't much they could do. Block and ignore, that's what they said. But how do you ignore a man who once had keys to your home? A man who knew your schedule, your habits, your vulnerabilities. I changed my locks, told my manager at work to call security if he ever showed up, and started walking Milo during the day instead of at night. Chloe and I grew closer through it all. It was strange, but the more Matt tried to scare us, the more united we became. We'd meet for lunch, text constantly, even spend weekends together just to feel safe. We joked that we were trauma bonded, but there was something deeper than that: a shared strength. We weren't victims anymore. We were survivors. One Friday, Chloe suggested we post the full story online, not to get revenge, but to warn others. She said she'd seen other women comment on Matt's old photos, ones he hadn't deleted yet, and she suspected he might have done the same thing to them. The thought made me sick, so we did it together. We wrote a long post with screenshots, timelines, photos, everything. We blurred private details, but made the story clear. This is what manipulation looks like. This is what emotional abuse feels like. It wasn't about shaming him. It was about freeing ourselves from the silence. The post exploded overnight. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. Women reached out saying they'd been through the same thing. Some even said they knew Matt, that he'd dated their friends and pulled the same tricks. It was horrifying and validating at the same time. We'd exposed him for who he really was. The next few days were chaos. He texted again, this time furious. "You ruined my life. You think people will believe you? You'll regret this." The tone was different now, not sad, not desperate, angry, dangerous. Chloe told me she was scared to be alone, so I stayed at her apartment that weekend. We tried to keep things light, ordered pizza, watched bad movies, but there was this constant tension in the air. Every sound made us jump. Around midnight, while we were watching TV, Milo started barking like crazy. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the door. We froze. Neither of us moved for what felt like a full minute. Then Chloe whispered, "Do you think it's him?" My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't speak. Another knock, louder this time. I peeked through the peephole. My stomach dropped. It was Matt. He looked furious, red-faced, eyes wild, jaw clenched. I backed away from the door, shaking. He started yelling, "You think you can ruin me? You think anyone will believe your lies?" He pounded on the door so hard the frame rattled. Chloe called 911 while I held the door shut with all my weight. He kept screaming, alternating between anger and fake sobbing. "I loved you. Haley, I loved both of you. Why couldn't you just let it go?" It was terrifying. When the police finally arrived, he tried to play it off, saying we'd misunderstood, that he just wanted to talk. They took him away, but not before he gave us this cold, dead stare that made my skin crawl. After that night, everything changed. We filed for a restraining order. The police took our statements, and for the first time, it felt like the nightmare might actually end. Weeks passed without hearing from him. We started to breathe again, little by little. Chloe went back to the gym. I started sleeping through the night. We even laughed again, genuinely this time. One afternoon, we met at the park with Milo, and she said something that stuck with me. "It's weird, isn't it? How we met because of him. But now he's the only reason we understand each other like this." I nodded because she was right. We'd gone from being strangers fighting over the same man to being like sisters, bound by pain, but healing through each other. I thought that was the end of it, the confrontation, the chaos, the fear. I thought we could finally move on. But I was wrong, because a few weeks later, something unexpected arrived in my mailbox, an envelope with no return address. Just my name written in Matt's handwriting. And inside wasn't a letter. It was a photo of Chloe and me sitting on a park bench just days earlier, smiling, unaware someone had been watching us. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding that photo with shaking hands, my pulse thudding in my ears so loud I could barely hear anything else. It wasn't just a picture, it was proof that he was still out there, still watching, still trying to make us afraid. The photo wasn't taken from far away either. It was close, like he'd been standing right there behind the trees, camera in hand, waiting for the perfect shot. On the back of the photo, in messy handwriting, were four words that made my blood run cold. "You can't escape me." I sat down on the floor and tried to breathe. Part of me wanted to rip the picture up and pretend it didn't exist, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. I called Chloe immediately. She didn't even let me finish before saying, "He's back, isn't he?" Her voice broke when I told her about the note. She hadn't received anything yet, but we both knew it was only a matter of time. The next morning, she sent me a photo of her own mailbox, an envelope just like mine, with a picture of her sleeping in her apartment, the curtains barely open, taken from outside her window. The cops were notified again, of course, but it felt like we were stuck in some twisted loop. They told us they'd look into it, but without solid proof that it was him, there wasn't much they could do. It was infuriating. We were terrified, but the world kept spinning like nothing was wrong. So we did what we always did, we leaned on each other. Chloe moved in with me temporarily. We took turns staying awake at night, checking the locks 3 times, keeping Milo close. The first few nights were the hardest. Every sound made us jump. Every car that slowed outside made our hearts race. But over time, fear turned into anger. Pure, burning anger. "He's not winning," Chloe said one night as we sat on the couch, surrounded by half-empty mugs of coffee. "He wants us scared. I won't give him that satisfaction." And she was right. We'd already lost too much sleep, too much peace, too much of ourselves to his obsession. We needed to take back control. That's when Chloe came up with an idea, one that scared me but made sense. She wanted to record him, catch him red-handed. "He's watching us anyway," she said. "So let's give him something to see." We set up small cameras by the front door and windows, hidden but well-placed. We even staged fake routines, pretending to leave the apartment at specific times so he might reveal himself. It was risky, but we were desperate. For a week, nothing happened. No packages, no texts, no sightings. We started to think maybe he'd finally gotten bored or scared off. But then, on the 8th night, around 2 a.m., the motion sensor camera by the back window went off. The alert popped up on my phone, and when I checked the feed, I stopped breathing. There he was, Matt, standing outside in the dark, wearing a hoodie, staring straight at the window like he knew exactly where the camera was. His expression was blank, no anger, no emotion. Just the eerie calm that made my skin crawl. He stood there for almost 2 minutes, not moving, before turning and walking away. We took the footage to the police the next morning. This time, they acted fast. They issued a warrant, citing harassment and violation of the restraining order. A week later, they caught him hiding out in a motel near our neighborhood. When I got the call that he'd been arrested, I didn't know whether to cry, laugh, or collapse. The relief hit me like a tidal wave, but the exhaustion was worse. Months of tension released all at once, leaving me numb. Chloe and I went together to give our final statements. Seeing him there, sitting in the interrogation room behind the glass, was surreal. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked small, defeated. I realized then that men like him feed off control. Take that away, and they crumble. After that day, everything started to quiet down. He was ordered to stay away for good and faced charges for stalking and harassment. Chloe and I finally started to rebuild. We moved into a new apartment together, in a different city somewhere with more light, more noise, more safety. It wasn't about running away. It was about starting fresh. Our friendship had become something rare and unspoken understanding built on trust, resilience, and survival. We both started therapy, got new jobs, and even began laughing about small things again. Sometimes we'd talk about Matt, not out of fear anymore, but out of disbelief at how much he'd once controlled our lives. We'd say things like, "Remember when we thought he was the one?" And then laugh until tears came. It felt good to laugh again. It felt like taking back power. But there was still one more twist, something I didn't see coming. About 6 months after his arrest, Chloe met someone new. His name was Ryan, kind, grounded, patient. She was hesitant at first, scared of repeating old patterns. But he proved himself different, and I was genuinely happy for her. Watching her heal gave me hope for myself. But healing isn't linear. One night, months later, she came home pale, shaking, holding her phone out to me. It was a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "You really think it's over?" And beneath it, a live photo, taken from inside our apartment. When I saw that live photo, my chest froze. My hands shook so badly I dropped Chloe's phone onto the carpet. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Someone crouched near the edge of our living room, just behind the couch, capturing us through the crack between the cushions. Milo barked frantically at the empty room, and Chloe grabbed me, whispering, "It's him. He's back." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to run, but my body felt paralyzed. All the progress, all the healing, felt like it was being ripped away in an instant. We called 911 immediately, explaining that this was live, that he had somehow gotten inside our apartment, and that we feared for our safety. The dispatcher assured us that officers were on the way. But waiting those precious minutes felt like an eternity. And then we heard a faint creak from the bedroom hallway. My heart pounded as I grabbed the closest thing to defend myself, a heavy flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Chloe clutched a baseball bat she kept near the door. Whoever was out there was careful, methodical, quiet. Every instinct screamed that it was Matt, though it didn't make sense. He was supposed to be in jail. That's when the police arrived. They stormed the apartment, guns drawn, and cornered him in the hallway. But when the lights hit his face, it wasn't Matt. It was someone else, a man in his 20s, eerily similar in build and hair color, holding a phone streaming live. The police quickly restrained him, and during questioning, it came out that he had been hired by Matt before his arrest, a friend from college, someone Matt had manipulated into doing his dirty work. He had been stalking us for weeks, feeding photos and live footage back to Matt from jail using contraband phones. It was horrifying, but also oddly relieving. Matt wasn't omnipotent. He didn't have supernatural control over us. He had to rely on someone else, and now we had evidence against them both. The authorities confiscated the phones, collected the footage, and strengthened our restraining orders. Matt's jail sentence was extended for the harassment and for orchestrating stalking through a third party. Finally, it felt over. I cried in Chloe's arms, exhausted but free. After months of fear, betrayal, and manipulation, we could finally breathe. Over time, our friendship deepened even further. We moved in together permanently, supporting each other through therapy, new jobs, and even small moments of happiness that felt like miracles after everything we'd endured. Milo thrived, Chloe found a new love in Ryan, gentle, patient, trustworthy, and I started seeing someone too. Someone kind who made me feel safe and valued. Life slowly became normal. But it was forever marked by what we had survived. The strange twist in this story is that the bond between Chloe and me, born from pain and betrayal, became unshakable. We'd gone from potential enemies, both manipulated by the same man, to lifelong allies, maybe even sisters, protecting each other from a world that once tried to destroy us. Matt's betrayal taught us lessons about trust, self-respect, and the terrifying ways people can manipulate others, but it also taught us about resilience, courage, and the kind of loyalty that only comes from shared adversity. Years later, when we look back, we still laugh about the absurdity of it all, the lies he told both of us, the ridiculous lengths he went to maintain control, but more importantly, we marvel at how two women, thrown together by betrayal, could find friendship, strength, and eventually joy in each other. That's the story of how he cheated and how I ended up becoming best friends with the girl he thought he could use and discard.